Thank you, Andy. And thanks very much for the opportunity to give you an update on this site that you've heard something about over the last few years and earlier today. I do hope you're all still with me. Still awake? Yeah? Yay! Okay, well, we're going back a little bit further in time from the lime cordial bottles, but weren't they fantastic? And we're going to take you to the site of a medieval bridge in the Borders. And I am speaking on behalf of myself and Geoff Parkhouse from Ancrum District Heritage Society, who hopefully you saw with his display and a model of the bridge down in the communal area. So, well, we've been working on this for 6 years, actually, and there are so many people involved in helping us get to this point that I cannot mention them all. But key amongst them are indeed the Ancrum and District Heritage Society, who discovered this site in the bed of the River Teviot in 2018. And they have been instrumental in ensuring that the importance of it was recognised, that it was recorded, that it has entered the public record. Actually, latterly, 2021, it has been scheduled. And now, at long last, it has been precisely dated. So when it was first discovered, it coincided with the early stages of my South East Scotland oak dendro research project, which was funded largely by HES. And this became one of the sample sites for that project that was trying to build up the oak tree ring record for South East Scotland. So when you see SESOD written on the slide, that's that project, okay? Here we found that the timbers were actually pretty difficult for tree ring dating. They were quite young, fast-grown oak. They probably local native oak. Some of the timbers in that structure are really wiggly, like branches rather than stems of trees. So that's why I think local. I could build up a floating chronology of 4 out of the 7 samples, but I could not place it in time on ring width alone. So at that point, we sent off 2 samples for radiocarbon dating. And I should say that Wessex Archaeology were a large part of this project as well and did an underwater survey and some of the sampling in 2020. And it was their survey records that led to the site being scheduled. So here's the radiocarbon dating. There were 2 samples. The first one on your left is a wiggle match date that takes several samples across one timber to try and get a really precise date. And it returned a date, a felling date between 1340 and 1360 with a 95.4% probability, which we thought at the time gave us a mid-14th century bridge, which was incredibly puzzling from the historical context point of view. A very unstable, uncertain time in the Borders. And of course, the Black Death occurs right in the middle of that bracket. We also dated another single sample from a different timber, and that returned a different date with a bimodal distribution. That is those 2 grey peaks on the left hand. Yeah, right hand. Can never do that. The right-hand graph for you, on the side is the radiocarbon date and the radiocarbon age on the vertical axis. Horizontal is the calibration. And you can see, notice in the blue line, that's the calibration curve, the big bump in it. That's led to a bimodal, in other words, 2 peaks in the radiocarbon curve calibration. And that gives us a date for that timber that spreads over the 14th to the early 15th century. So, more recently, Swansea University have been developing the application of stable oxygen isotope dendrochronology to dating heritage sites. It was really developed for climate studies. So instead of measuring the tree ring width, which is what I had done, they were measuring the chemistry, the oxygen isotope chemistry of the rings in these same samples. That signature, that chemical isotope signature, is really strong, a much stronger signal than ring width across a larger area. And it's used to date the stuff that we find very difficult to date on ring width alone, short sequences, fast-growing material, so on. The date they got, which I will reveal in a moment, was first obtained against English isotope reference data. But then in a belts and braces approach, we decided to just be absolutely sure of it. And Swansea measured the isotopes in samples from Needpath Castle, which I had already dated on ring width dendrochronology. And that was native oak as well, from the early 15th century. So this doesn't really mean that the radiocarbon dating was wrong. It's all about probabilities when it comes to radiocarbon dating. And when you say that you get a certain date range with a 95% probability, that actually means that 1 in 20 times the true date will lie outside that range. And that is what has happened here. That bumpy nature of the calibration curve in that particular period, in that late part of the late medieval period, means that you can get these bimodal distributions, like on the left-hand bottom graph, so that when you try and calibrate a date, there may be a little bit of probability sitting in a different peak at a different date. And that is what happened here.
So,
and on the isotope dating and subsequently the ring width dating, the felling dates of the timbers in Ancrum Old Bridge are for the winter of 1428 to 1429. And therefore the bridge cannot have been built any earlier than 1429. If you wish to read about the science, our new article in Journal of Archaeological Science is there and is open access and is available through the Dendrochronicle website. If you go to the publications page, it's right at the top of the list. Briefly, the historical context. I will expand on this in the SESOD publication, but I'm extremely grateful to Professor Richard Oram for some initial thoughts about what it means. Any errors or mistakes in here are entirely mine. But essentially, we have this bridge on a contested location on the much contested English-Scottish border. It is on a strategic crossing point. It's one of the narrowest points on the Teviot. It is in between all these important other sites, abbeys, castles, so on. And it is near the Bishops of Glasgow Palace. So key dates are that the Scots recapture and destroy Jedburgh Castle in 1409. And by the 1420s, we have James I returned from England. And he soon appoints John Cameron, who became Bishop of Glasgow, as his right-hand man. And there's a bishop's palace pretty much beside the bridge. We see this as potentially the bridge being built as part of the reconfiguration of the road network regionally here when the Scots had recovered the site. And therefore the date points very much to this being a Scottish site, Scottish-built bridge. Ancrum District Heritage Society's work continues. Over the past 4 years, they've done various things, including working with Hess and their survey team to complete a drawn survey of the 1784 toll bridge, which spans over the medieval bridge, and found some reworked earlier stonework within it. They found new structures in the river floor, which were not revealed when Wessex did their survey, and they've also erected a explanatory board. And also, through the medium of the Badger site and David Connolly, they won a prize of having a model made by Ben Price of Curious Plum Studios. And you hopefully saw that on the stall with Geoff earlier. It's given us a new understanding of the bridge and its situation, and we think that it will fire the imagination of locals and visitors alike in the years to come. You can find more about the case study, SESOD, and stable isotope dendro on the SCARF research framework, Dendro Research Framework new website, and in the book. And anyone up for a birthday party, 600th in 2029, okay? Geoff, we're going to need some more candles, all right? Thank you.